Hi everyone, this is Renee Francis with Matter of Perception, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at the work that we've done on behalf of Little Joe Clyde Daniels. Mother and father have been arrested for his charge with criminal homicide, and we're hoping that maybe our map will direct some focus for your search efforts. Okay, if you're not familiar with Matter of Perception, what we do is we have been measuring point of disappearance to point of recovery in cases of missing children and adults. This page is actually not public at our site, but it's a rework of the cases that we are getting ready to publish on, showing how these children's cases at the time of their disappearance, the chart's gravitational pull, the planet's gravitational pull, offer the direction in which they've been found. We've been measuring point of disappearance to point of recovery. So actually, you can peruse what is public. I'm going to go over some of these numbers in a little bit. But what is public is a case study. It'll explain how we do what we do. And there's a bunch of cases down here showing you how these victims, the stars at the time of their disappearance is actually offering the direction and most often the distance in which they're recovered. Okay, so we've been measuring point of disappearance to point of recovery, and we are correlating those numeric facts against the numeric facts in the astronomical process. Okay. So let's get back to Joe, because on his page, I'm going to explain to you a little bit. On his page, all the way at the bottom, we've actually given you a couple of case examples of other children who were homicides by family members, but there's two cases on here that have not actually been solved just yet, but they're a little bit fishy. Anyway, what you're looking at is here, what we've been doing is measuring, again, we've been measuring the point of disappearance to point of recovery, okay? So what you're seeing here is that this is a compass laid over the point of where his mother said that she last saw Timothy. She said that she went to a carnival and she turned around to buy a soda, and when she came back, Timothy was gone. Okay, Ellie was never able to ascertain that Timothy was at that carnival. No operator of the ride saw him there. No one had any camera or video footage that he was there. And as it turned out, days later, her story kept on changing. And actually, she has just been got a sentence for his murder after some 18-year. I forget how long it was 1991, and just last year she got convicted. So I think it's around 21 years, I think. I don't know, somewhere near around there. Anyway, so what you're looking at is that at 7:30, this is a screenshot of the planets in their measurement of the ecliptic, okay? And the ecliptic is an imaginary point around the sun that all the planets transverse, and they are all measurable. Okay, so when you look at these two items in here, you're seeing a compass here, and this in itself is acting as a compass, and all we're doing is we're taking the measurement of these planets and we are vectoring them out across here to show that in the case of Timothy Wiltsey, we had Venus and Pluto were both 18 degrees. He was found on a vector bearing from this point to where he was recovered was 14 degrees Pisces. Here, his first sneaker was found here, and then the rest of them was found in this area right in here. Okay, a little bit scattered, but what happened was a gentleman was in that area looking for taking pictures, I believe, and O'Malley, his name was, and he came across Timothy's first sneaker, and when the police showed the sneaker to his mother, she said it wasn't him. But he was so disturbed by it that he wound up writing to the paper. An FBI agent read the paper. You can come in here and read this yourself. Read the story in the paper. He wound up talking to O'Malley, and they went out there on the 6th, and they toured the area. Before you know it, the FBI guy had the Ellie back in there, and they wound up finding Timothy's other sneaker and the rest of his remains in the truck tire. Okay, so and what they found out was that what happened was after the FBI did some digging, he found out that Michelle Odzinski, Timothy's mother, had a job over here in the Edison Merchant Center, so she was familiar with the area. Anyway, the plans here that are highlighted in red are showing you the aspect in which that was present at the time that he showed up on, okay? The thing is, you have to understand that these planets, these planets have their own orbital speed in which they move around the sun, okay? It takes this is Mercury here. It takes him 81 days to make one orbit of the sun, so he moves pretty fast. The sun actually ticks 1 degree every day to do a transit of what appears from our spot on the Earth to do a loop of the zodiac, okay? 12 signs, 360 degrees, each sign gets 30 degrees, okay? So when we see that when Timothy was taken here and found here, we're measuring what this vector bearing, the compass bearing was from this point to this point, and this point to this point. Because again, remember there was two different places. Now this is the Raritan River, so all this area floods in here, so things move, right? Okay, so we have 14 degrees Pisces and 21 degrees Pisces as 2 different places where that was found. And now here we have Venus at 18 degrees Cancer. So Venus is trining this point, and Pluto at 18 degrees Scorpio. These two are exactly trining one another. So he's trining this point. So these 2 planets in aspect. Now Mars is considered to be conjunct because he's only 10 degrees away. So that's why you're seeing you got 18 and 18 and you have 29. And that's why you're seeing that there's 3 lines here, 3 lines here. And there should be 1 more here. But what we did was we just added the 2. So you have the, there should be actually 1 more line in here. This has to be redone. But Timothy Wilsey turned up on the Venus-Pluto-Mars trine on the finishing point, okay? If you come down here, let me dump that. If you come down here, now he was found 2.7 miles away. The ascendant was 2.6. We reduced the numbers because we're seeing that these kids are turning up on the reduction of those numbers as well, okay? This little guy was murdered by his dad, okay? And so he was last seen here, taken over 105 miles, and that's not likely, okay? The vector bearing from this point to this point was 17 degrees Capricorn, and Pluto at the time was 19 degrees Capricorn. So by 2 degrees off here, okay? Jupiter in this chart is 16, so these were considered a square. They were in square to one another, okay? And what we're doing here, each of these planets have their opposite ends on this compass. So that's why we say that they are square. Okay? So he was found on, this little guy was found on a Jupiter-Pluto square in the chart. Okay? Now, the thing is, there were other planets that were in aspect. Okay? So when we worked on him, before he was found, he may have had several different patterns in his map, and which you are going to see with little Joe Daniels, okay? And then there's another case down here. You can again come here. This is his birth, how it worked out in his birth. He was found on his own Mars, Pluto, Jupiter trine, okay? A trine is 126. Triangulation, just like they figure out your cell phones. The reason why they can figure out your cell phones and it's ping is because of something that's called triangulation. And we're using the same thing in here with the stars as a compass laid over a map. Okay, that's all we're doing. Okay. So he was found in his birth chart. He was found on the trine. Now, this is little Jesse Wilson. He just came up. Mother said he left in the middle of the night. It's still unsolved. There's nobody been arrested for this crime. But this little guy, he was found. The moon was 4 degrees Capricorn. He's found 4 miles away. The sun and Mars were in trine. Okay, so he came up on a trine. He was last seen here at his home, found here. Okay, Mars was 25 Scorpio. He's found 24 Scorpio. Okay, very, very profound. This is over and over and over again. It's gravitational pull. It's geometry. The sun holds everything in its grips, and it's the boss. Okay, so we're finding that these children, even though maybe it might have been another pattern or planetary pattern in the chart that gave the direction, we're also accounting that the sun is doing something to the found bearing in which they're found. So again, here's his birth chart. He's found on a trine to his sun. Okay, his own Jupiter was 14 degrees Scorpio, so it was 10 degrees away from this spot, but the sun was 25 degrees. So that's why you're seeing 25 and 14. You're seeing those two measurements completely around this compass. And he's here, 4 miles. His Saturn was 4 degrees. So in his birth chart, Saturn gave distance, but in the disappearance chart, the moon gave the distance. Okay? Now, again, don't worry about it. We're visually showing you how the stars patterned out over this compass. Little Robert B. Okay, note this is unsolved, but this little one was found in the backyard, near the backyard of the mother's ex-boyfriend's home. Okay, and he was found 2 miles from, he was last seen here. This chart is based at 11 a.m. when he was last seen alive by the truant officer that came to this house. He ran out the door. And that was the last time that there was a couple people that said that they saw him from the, but I don't think it was ever verified. So this was the last time. This is the chart that we used. And little Robert B came up on the Pluto-Jupiter square. I think I've already showed you the other case of Armand, who came up on this same planetary aspect. Okay. So it was 2.4 miles for the moon was pulled out here. So sometimes what I'm trying to show you here is that you'll get near distance from the planets. Okay. So, but anyway, he was found from point of disappearance to point of recovery, the vector was 191, which is 11 degrees Libra. Jupiter was 14 degrees Libra. Okay. This is 15. So that's why you're seeing 2 here, and then these are just measuring out the ones that they're measuring. Okay. So he came up on the a square, and then at his birth, we do not know his time of his birth to get a moon. Okay, but he was 11 degrees Libra. His Saturn was 11 degrees Cancer, so you have a square because they're both cardinal signs. So his Saturn squared where he was found, and his moon could very well be opposed. See, his moon is, let me get this here. It's opposed to this. Now this is the work that we have to do. We have to go over this chart and analyze it. You don't have to worry about what the star is doing it. You just have to look at the lines when we get to his map, okay? So it's possible that the moon's going to move 13 degrees in one day, okay? So any way you look at it, when this little Robert B was born, he had the moon opposing this. Depending on time, it's going to depend on how exact it was. This is 11, but at sunrise, it's at 7. So if he was born a little bit later, a couple hours later, this is getting tighter and tighter to Saturn. But it doesn't matter. The moon gets a 10 to 12 degree orb. So any which way you look at it, for us, over terrain, personality-wise, if I was going to interpret his personality and stuff, I would definitely need to know what time it was in order to judge how strong this aspect is for him, okay? But anyway, over terrain, we give it a little bit more of an orb, and this is an opposition, and that's what he was found on, okay? He's found on the other end finishing point of this opposition, okay? All this is 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90, and 90. Okay, let's see who April added a couple. Is there another one on here? No. Okay, so those are these cases that we put here as an example for you to see distance and what patterns that, so you can pay attention to Joe. Then, of course, you can come over here. This is public. You can come over here to our 100 case study and look at more cases. Same thing. Okay, we are not using any kind of confirmation bias, okay? If we can get the information of where these folks were last seen and where their remains of recovery, the only thing we are doing is we are measuring the distance from point of disappearance, point of recovery. We want to know how far away it was, direct miles, and we want to know what the vector bearing was. Then we want to correlate and those parallels to what we saw going on in the heavens at the time and the location where they disappeared. Okay, so a lot of times people say, oh, they only put cases up there that work. No, if we can find the data, we measure it. Okay, so let's get over here to Joe. All right. First of all, I just want to get up here with his little thing here, his little chart, and just say a couple of things that we already know we're looking for remains because his father said that he was the one who hit him. Personally, I don't think the father worked alone here. For some reason, I'm getting a feeling of the mother as well. Has responsibility over this little one's death. And this is because when he was born, he's got the moon and he's got Pluto here conjunct. Any which way you look at it, even if this moon is disassociated, there's a possibility this moon could be in Sagittarius when he was born. Okay, but this is just telling me, not that his son, his father is the sun is his father, the moon is his mother. He's got the sun trine Uranus, okay? So the father's, he would see the father as being a little unstable, a little excitable, okay? The mother is very controlling, moon over Pluto, okay? So both of them are involved in this, and I don't think that the father disposed of him by himself. I think the mother's involved in this as well, okay? However, we need... Well, let me just dump this for a second because I want to come down here and look at the numbers. And so this is, even though this chart's for me, the numbers could be for you searchers as well, because you want to pay attention to any of these numbers and any roads that these numbers can invert to. Okay, this is the problem with little Joe. Okay, on the day that he was born, I took the earliest time on 7:30 and the latest time and ranged his moon, ranged what his sun could be, ranged his Mercury, and I just want to see if any of these were going to change. Sometimes they don't. These planets are slow in moving. They won't change a degree, but in his case, they did. So that's why these numbers are getting doubled up. So you might want to pay attention to these. These numbers could actually come up to when he's found. So we're already in, we got 420 coming up here. You can invert these numbers. Hold on. We got 420 that might be coming up by progression. That's the only number I'm seeing a 4 in. I don't know where I'm not seeing any 4s coming up in here except for this one. That won't be a date. But sometimes these numbers here can turn into end to be dates. So these are all the measurements and distance that we drew out for him in his birth. And these are the vector bearings that we drew. Okay? So but you can also pay attention to these numbers. Not as clean as I'd like them to be if we had a time of birth for him, but you can still maybe pay attention to him. You do have a road down there that you got a 230. So these numbers can be inverted. Okay, I didn't see any other. I didn't see off the bat that I can remember any other roads, but I did see a 230. That's a 9 mile or 10 mile distance, which we do have. So these things are actually something that you can look at, these numbers for him. And then you have, there's a grid chart on here for his father. Okay. Now the thing is, the reason why I think the mother is involved here is because of this stellium that she's got going on in here. This is rough. This is rough right here. This is mean. Okay. This is real mean. So I'm not thinking, there's a good chance that this moon is a little bit later and it's going to oppose all this. So, I don't think that the father is in this all by himself, and I really don't think that he disposed of him by himself. I'd bet a good amount of money that the mother went in the car with them. Get rid of him, or she knows, maybe even directed him, okay? Because this is hidden. This is also murky waters and it's ponds, okay? But I wanted to bring something up when we go back up here to Joe. Okay. So it's pretty hard in what we do is actually calling for whether or not we think you're looking for a large child or remains. But in this case, the father already confessed. We know we're looking for remains, but where are we looking? Are we looking in water or are we looking on terrain? Now, that's the problem with this chart. I wish that I could have a really good sign down here in this chart, because this would be our resting place. but I don't know what time this youngin's born. But I do know so I have to look in other places. With the moon and Pluto conjunct here, this could definitely suggest a pond, okay, or a lake, a water feature, okay. Another thing is that this Neptune is sextile. So yes, you definitely have to pay attention to the water. Okay, the mother's chart says you have to pay attention to water, and his own chart's saying that you have to pay attention to water. However, without a time, I'm still not convinced that he's definitely in water. I don't know if I would bet money on whether that he would be in the water, but it's a good shot. Another thing is that this transit right here is conjuncting this. So if he is in water, he's weighed down because Saturn is restraint and it's restriction and it's weight, it's concrete. So if he is in a pond, he's weighted down, and he's probably might be in something to be weighted down in, to help him be weighed down. Now, another thing is that I'm seeing in here that if he's not, okay, if he's on terrain, they were probably very, very lazy, and they just dumped him somewhere, like not even 100 feet off the road. And even if he is in a pond, he's probably not in a pond that's like something that they would have to carry. Like they would need to be able to drive up to that pond to dump him in there. I'm not getting a real energy. Let's face it, from the pictures I've seen on the internet, these people, they're overweight and probably very, very lazy. So I don't think they're going to go through any big effort in trying to get rid of him. So this right here, because it's so strong and because it was being triggered at the time of his disappearance, all this, there is a very good chance that if he is that if he is on the terrain and not submerged in water, that he's probably just covered up with brush, and the ground would be hilly and uneven. Okay, and this is Libra, and this is Gemini. So it might be not such a dead road, but like a well-traveled road, that people are used to using all the time. Where could they have just pulled off and gotten out of the car and walked in a little bit into the woods. Okay, so this right here is because this is an earth sign and this is an earth sign. This could also indicate that he's like in a wooded area. Like I wouldn't want to say that that it would be like an open plainy kind of marsh, but more wooded. Okay, so that's all that I'm getting from there. I really wish I have a time of birth to feel a little bit more confident in an area, but I can't. So anyway, so let's get over to his map. Okay. All right, so when you come to his map, again, from on his page, I do not want, your best bet is not to look at this map on his page. You can if you want to. It's just go to this link and it'll open up this map, okay? And then, of course, you'll be able to look at this map in a terrain view, road view, satellite view, and then there's even satellite view with some of the major roads highlighted. Okay, if you have an address of interest that you want to punch in here, like if you know Joe and his wife and people who are their friends in the area, any of them have ponds on their property, type in the address and it'll pull up a marker on this map. Okay. However, when you come back into the map, that marker, once you leave the map and come back in, that marker won't be there anymore. You'd have to enter it again. But what I'm trying to say is you have all these ways of manipulating this map and looking at it. Okay. Scrolling in and scrolling out with your mouse wheel, or using these buttons here, entering an address here. Okay. All right. So when you come in here, let me just explain these folders. All these little eyes turns whatever is in that folder on and off. Why is that on? Oh, one of these. Let me turn that off. Okay, this is just a working folder for us. Don't worry. Don't worry about going in that folder. That's not for you. It's for us. Okay, so this is his point of disappearance. Sometimes if we're in the map and we're working on it, we usually set the map to update every 5 minutes while we're working on it. So if you're in the map and when it updates, it might bring you right back to where we just saved. Okay, so don't get frustrated. Just try to remember where you were. Okay. We might be finished with them as of right now, but there might be a reason for us to go back in and adjust something if somebody wants to give us locations to map out in here. Okay, so this folder is locations. Okay, you don't really need to have it open once they're turned on. You can just close it so it gives you room here, because once you open up these folders, we've hotspotted. These here. Let me turn on the terrain so you see. Okay, so these little yellow things are our hotspots. Now let me explain our hotspots. Okay, our hotspots is us, strangers to your Tennessee area, looking at this map in an aerial view, deciding that we see vectors going over there and they look like they could be hotspots, like places where these people can go. Okay, so I want you to pay attention to our hotspots, but at the same time, you might see a vector going out over somewhere that I didn't have a hotspot, but you know that road is lonely at night and that could be a good place for somebody to pull over. This is what I don't know. So sometimes I don't want our hotspots to distract you from the rest of what I'm going to tell you. I really need you to pay attention to where you see these lines going and what you know about your area, okay? So you can turn our hotspots on and you can turn them off. I've segregated them into your quadrants. Okay, so these are the ones that are north, west, and then you have your northeast, and then you have I'm clicking them, then you have your southeast, which I think is a good starting spot for looking, and then you have these down here. Now, just because there's more here doesn't mean, all we know is that Joe's going to come up on one of these patterns that we highlighted on here, and we could miss him in a hot spot, or we could definitely nail it, okay? But I don't want you to take your focus off of other areas that you know could be promising because of what you know about that area, because you see vector bearings going over those areas, okay? So you can close this. Okay, open and close. Turn them on, turn them off. Okay. All right, so now there's 3 folders. Okay, there's the chart for the disappearance and the patterns. Okay, I'm going to turn this back on. Okay, so right now we have his Sun, Mercury, Mars turned on. Okay, little kids love to come up on their suns and their moons. That's why we started here, because you might want to be a starting place to actually look. Okay, where these vectors are going. Okay, so you'll see that the solid lines are just as important as these dotted lines. Okay, and you have to look at this map, these planet patterns one by one. Don't worry that this is Sun, Mercury. Okay, you don't need to worry about what these planets are. Okay, we labeled them because we had to make sure we covered all our patterns. All you have to do is just look at them. Your best bet once you're in these patterns here is to stay away from opening them. I don't want you to accidentally turn any of these vectors off, okay? This is all what we had to draw to make that pattern look like that, okay? So keep it closed, because again, I'm afraid I don't want you to see you'll shut that off, so stay out of it, okay? You just want to come here, okay? So say we go here, say we like the 9 miles Mercury, okay? Let me show you something here for a second, okay? This is 118 kids, okay? Under 18 children homicides of data that we've aggregated to date, okay? I have about 175, but this is what the data that we've aggregated, we're able to, pull together, okay? From all these kids, okay, you got 118, and so the average miles and distance that their remains were recovered were 14. Okay, I just wanted to show you that. So we have little Adam Walsh down here. Let me open this one. Little Adam Walsh went 110, 111 miles. Armand, who is one of the case studies on Joe's page, was 109. So you're only getting 10 people. This Nathan here was a suicide. So we're actually doing any young teens that commit suicide are on here too. But most of these are all homicides. Very few of them are, maybe a couple of them, 2 or 3, 4 maybe are accidents. So you're seeing that these distance 50 miles and out, you're not getting that many. Okay. Then you got 17 that were from 20 to 37 miles. Then we had 20 cases out of the 118 that were in between 11 and 19 miles. So these are the different things that we've been looking at. This is not actually available publicly on our page right now, but I'm showing it to you now to show you that 14 is the average mile in distance, okay? But then look at this. This is the one you got, 21. Now, even the U.S. Department of Justice did their 600 child homicide study, and they'll tell you that these children are usually found within a quarter mile in this column from their home when they're abductions, okay? So far, our study right now is with the cases that we are able to have in it are showing us that, you know, it seems like this is 11 to 19 or from 1 to 3 miles in here. Okay, but these play too. These numbers are still up there. Okay, so with that said, when we come over here to Joe's map, okay, in here, I'm going to turn that off. That's his birthday. This is his disappearance. Okay, here's the distance folder. Okay, I don't have them all turned on. Okay, but we have to do a standard distance of 25 point, a quarter of a mile, half a mile, 3/4 of a mile, and then 1 mile, because this is what the study of 600 child homicides telling us, that this is normally where they're found. Okay, in this distance. Okay, so by standard, I got to put these distances in here. But once I get in here and I'm looking, you can turn these off, so it doesn't make the map that busy. Okay, so say if we were going to go out 9 miles. Okay, so now we're at 9 miles. If you hover, anything you hover over here, you see how that's lighting up? You can see where you're at with your miles. That's 5 miles. Okay, and then I have to actually scan out to see 9 miles. All right, so your best bet is where you want to look. You've already searched in here? I don't think I have distance there. I got 2.2. Okay, I could turn them all on. You can have every single one of them on if you want. Depends on how you want to look at it. Then close it. Okay. Then by closing this, see, you have to scan down here, roll down here to get the other ones. Now I'm keeping myself locked into this window frame size frame to do this video. But if you have this across your whole screen, you can make it bigger. Okay, so once you have your distances that you want to look at turned on, close that. Sometimes it acts a little goofy. Okay, and then so these are all the, where is that ascending? This one right here. This is the one I like. This is the one I like. I want to look at this one down here, this Manly Road. Okay, so we have distance. Where are we at with distance on that? I'm at 2.7 miles or 2.2 miles, okay? How far would they have gotten, these people? I mean, when you look at this area over, I mean, it's scary of all the densely woods
that you have. I mean, it's scary.
But where would they have gone, okay? They're driving down this road here, this CC road. They could have cut over on, coming down the street that they live on. They could have cut over this way, okay? This is the chart. This is for when they were lying, the time that they were lying. So this one's good. This aspect we like. So that's why you're seeing why we're putting these hot spots, okay? See, I'm trying to, when I look at where they live, you know, what's likely, and that's what I need you to do, is when you're looking at these roads, where could they drive out to go north? This way, up this road here, this Gilman Hollow Road, right? And then I have this one. You could have came out this way off here, came up this way, right? Because I got vector. So these little distances are pretty, you know, they're pretty long. I got to cover them all. But then I just want you to turn them on and look at them one by one. And what do you know about the area? Okay. This is another one. This is a good one too. This
this square is good. I think we got something down in here off this 230. Remember the road I told you was 230 that went through here? Where is that? Here, down here. If they would have traveled that far, and that distance would put us, we're at 14 miles. Why is that doing that? It's awful. Sorry about that. I don't know why it's doing that. It's acting up. So remember I told you about the 14 miles average? That's this one down here. Okay, so if they would have, you know, played in with everybody else, okay? Okay, so you have your disappearance. Now, we did the father too. The father's birthday is in here. He's in dark blue, and he's going to have distances, and he's going to have all his patterns. Okay, and I think if we turn on, we like that moon Pluto for him. Down here, this is where dog scented. Okay, where he had lines going down here. Also, this Manly's coming up, this Manly Road and CC Road's coming up again over here. Again, considering these people's weight and, you know, would they have gone that far? You know, it's not that easy to just, you know, carry a little kid who's, you know, deep into the woods or anything like that. So he's probably no more than 100 feet off the road if he's not in a pond. You know, and where are these roads? Could they have like taken off and pulled over and had the you know, the availability at night to have done what they did? Okay, you got to figure by 9:30 he was already hidden. You know, they could have hidden him in two different spots. They could have had him one spot and then, you know, and then went back and moved him. Like in here, these locations, there's a folder in here of someone who sent us, the sheriff's asking all these people on these roads for video footage. Why? What do they know that they're asking? They get cell phone pings? What do they know that they're asking for these roads in Pacific? So you can actually leave those on and turn them on. They're in this folder. You can turn them on or you can turn them off and actually look and see, you know, why are they calling out, the sheriff's department is calling out these roads. Okay, so you can leave those on. Let's leave those on for right now. So the dad, you know, here's all his distances. He's got 9 miles again. He's got 8 miles, but then we're here shorter. You know, if he stayed in this loop, if he didn't go more than 2 miles, what was possible? What do you know? When was the last time somebody saw Little Joe alive? The night before. Did somebody know he was alive at 9 o'clock? How much time did these people have from the time we know Little Joe was last seen alive into 5:20 the next morning when they decide to say, you know, they wake up and he's not in his bed. He's not home. Okay, so now you have all these patterns. You have to look at them one by one. Okay, all of them are potent. Our hotspots are based on what we may have think played a little bit better than the next one, but I don't want to say, again, don't look at, you know, don't look at this area, you know, look here because there's a line going here if you know that this is something that's possible, you know, like, you know, how could he could have gotten here, taken this road over and went up this road, this dune road. Is it possible? Right? Yeah, it's got to be possible. You know, what do these people know? Here's this Dupree. Where they have pulled over? You know, we're scanning in here looking at people's homes, but is there somebody's house in here? Can they pull over on this road? You know, what's in here where this line is? So another thing is when you do look at our study, I want you to see that some of these cases that we're showing you, the lines are here, but they're found here. They're just over a little bit. So that's how I need you to look at Joe's map. When you see that the line's running here, but you might have to look past it a little bit. And that these radiuses could be giving us near distance. Sometimes it's exact, sometimes it's near. It's just showing potency. So, you know, our maps are not magic. They have to be used with knowledge of the area, what you know about your persons of interest, their cell phone pings, people that they know, you know, places that they're used to going. Where would they feel comfortable to just, you know, drive in the middle of the night and put their little boy?
Okay, so you have to look at these all one by one. And so this is the dad. We do have a folder in here for the mom, and so we might get back in here to finish her vectors. But we've had like 3 kids in the last 2 weeks that's gone missing, and that, so we've been busy. So here's Joe Clyde. Here's the little ones. Okay, here's his birth. Okay, his moon, Pluto, Uranus. Okay, and they're usually found on their Pluto, these kids. So all of these lines here are playing into his moon Pluto measurement on here, and that's why you're seeing them. Okay, so you got a little pond over here. I keep on looking at this pond here. Oh, this Jason Chapel, Manly Loop. I don't know, this area over here is bugging me. But if I look at it like this, and if you come over on this Jason Loop from their street, I don't know if they could have done that. They could have came down Pruitt. They could have, I don't know how they could have, they could have came down here, right? Let me see. Let me just scan it. Okay, so they could have came down their road and they crossed over to come down here. So when they cross over on this Jason and then maybe came down this way, maybe, I'm not sure, okay? What was bugging me here is now you got a little pond over here. You got people's houses here. But then you got, looks like a road going in here. I don't know if there are houses in here. Again, I don't know. What looks like an aerial view is a lot different than being on the ground. What I found funny about this here is this looks like there's a little pond there. Not so much this pond, but this one right here. Once you turn and you come off on this Manly Road, there's houses over here. You're driving here, you're coming over here. Houses are after this brush. How easy would it have been to pull over into this area? I mean, if it was late at night, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. What I understand that the ponds over by his property where he lived were already searched and dived in. But when you look at this, you got a lot of little patches of water over here. A lot of them. Which one of them, and then which are the ones that I can't see that are actually hidden in these densely wooded areas here. So again, you have to look at this map with knowledge of the area and what was possible and what is it about these people that they know and they travel, where their friends, where are their jobs, where would they feel comfortable going? Okay, so this is Little Joe Clyde. This is his birth. This is his sun Mercury square. If he's on this one, okay. Sometimes they're conjunct or sometimes they're on the finishing points. I like this area down here. April likes the southern area, but I'm telling you, there's a good chance that north could work in here too. When you see that right here, he could have looped out of his house and came right up here, this fire tower road. What's possible? What's possible? What do they know? That's how you have to look at this map. But don't get discouraged because it's busy. Look at them one by one. If it took us a few hours to erect this map, construct it, you got to spend a little time in there and put the time in and look at it, okay? So there was one thing that I wanted to bring up. So once you get used to patterns, you're saying, I like this area down here because we know this about these people. Like, let's turn on that location thing again here, okay? So looks like there's a couple, these are spread out, where these are a little together, okay? So you can actually turn some of these distances on and see if we get distance to any of those. So we're due, all right? We're starting to get some distance when we turn them on, look. Okay, so now this road down here, we have the moon pulling, okay? Moon plays. Especially with disappearance of children, the sun and moon. They play a lot. Let me show you this. Right here, okay? This is what we're doing, okay? So we're looking, once we measure out the vector bearing on the compass to where these children are found, we want to look and we want to see what the sun did, aspect it made to that found bearing, okay? So now, out of 138 cases that we did it to so far, okay, it's telling us that 75 times the sun made a major aspect, okay? Major is an opposition, it's a trine, it's a square, it's a sextile, and it's a conjunction, okay? So 75 times out of 138 cases, the sun made a major aspect to where they were found, either by an opposition, trine, sextile, or square, okay? And then it made, in the blue here, inconjunct aspects, okay? It did it 37 times. 6 times out of 138, it made no aspect. So what we're thinking is we might be able to trust the sun as helping us to hotspot, okay? And that this is still the information that we're aggregating and pulling together, okay? If we can get the study done and get the cases that we're going to get all the data aggravated, that's what we're doing, okay? So again, the map needs to be explored with knowledge of the area, okay? You have to look on the terrain. You have to look in the wooded areas, uneven ground, the ditches, any kind of drainage, and you got to pay attention to the ponds because there's a good chance that, you know, they're not saying, and they must feel pretty confident of where they put them. They're not talking, and that's not good. So you can look at each one of these. And then what I was going to say is that you can actually, like, say we have this one on, okay? I'm going to turn on this. And I'm going to turn on, this aspect, okay? This is the Venus-Mars-Saturn trine that was happening at the time. And I'm just going to close it. Now I'm used to it. I like this aspect, okay? You might say, well, gee, we know he could have, now you know a little bit more that he could have been down here in this area based on these locations, okay? We got this one that the Sheriff's Department was interested, okay? All right, and we have distance. What we had? 2.7, 2.2 reduced. 1.4. Okay, so these two distances put us close to this road that they were interested in, okay? But now I want to close it, okay? I want to close it. I want to leave that on, and I want to go to Joe Clyde, okay? And I want to turn him on. And I want to see if there is another pattern that matches up with that one, right? Look at that. His moon, Neptune, okay? Hidden, remains, Pluto rules remains, Neptune is hidden. And now his own moon, Pluto, Neptune sextile is also pulling down there, okay? And if we go to distance, if I turn on the 2.3, which is already on, and that's 2, look what we got, okay? So not only is the disappearance distance giving us this area right here, but so is little Joe Clyde's birth stars giving it to us, okay? So let's close him, and let's turn on the dad. Okay, so we're going to turn him on, and I'm going to turn on his sun Mars. What do we got there? So we have some lines going there. Look at this. Okay, so his own moon Pluto opposition sextile, the father, has also got lines pretty close down to here. Okay, he's also got them pretty close. Everybody's got something pretty close over there. Is this a possibility? We didn't vector out too much over here. And I'm not saying that this, I'm sorry, we didn't hotspot too much out over here. But if it's a possibility because of what you know about these folks, then you want to look. And then we have 2 of them coming up in here. Okay? So that's what we usually do is like start turning them together because we know that not only will the disappearance patterns help us to know where the direction for Joe is, but also Joe's birth, okay, and the father's. Okay, so what's the other one? There might be another one here that's going out over there. Let's see. So I know it's a lot, and all you have, look at this one. This is a Saturn, Sun, Neptune trine. Okay, it's even tighter down in here. Okay, so you know. Once you get familiar with it and you start turning all of them on,
one by one. You start seeing which ones are playing in with one another. And like I said, you can't just sit here for 5 minutes, 10 minutes and give up and say, I don't get it. You have to go in here and you have to play with these folders and you have to, you know, turn them on one by one and look and see what is possible. So again, depending on where, if I'm in the program that works on his map right here, this is the program that I'm using to actually build his map. Okay, let me just take this out right here. If I'm in this map working on it, I get to use all these tools and I'm building. So whenever I do a save, I usually put it on auto save 5 minutes. So wherever I'm saving, I'll just show you right now. Okay, so I just saved at that point. Okay, so if I come back to Joe Clyde, what's going to be up there is going to be what I just saved, where I was at. So sometimes if you were in there on his map, even if I go here, that's not what I had on when I left, but that's where I saved. So if I'm working on it while you're in it, okay, it's going to automatically save and you should get the updates to it. And it could get a little aggravating if I'm working on it and you're in it at the same time, but, you know, again, give it some time and, you know, go in there and spend some time with it for you search group and what looks good. Where do these lines look like? Because he will, once he is found, and I do think that he's going to be found, we're going to be able to take one of these patterns right here and pull it up, and it's going to be we're going to be able to use it for illustration to show that little Joe was taken here and he was found over here. Okay, and we'll be able to take that pattern, and that's what we're going to use to illustrate him. Or maybe he'll come up here, and maybe they'll find him somewhere over here. If they find him over here, okay, and we'll use that pattern to illustrate. I like that one. They're all good. Like I said, we're sitting here in April's in New Jersey. I'm in Ohio. And, you know, we're doing it from an aerial view. So that's it. If you have any questions, again, do not worry about these stars. You can always learn, pick up a book on astrology, and this will teach you a little bit more. You could talk to 6 astrologers, and 6 astrologers are going to tell you their opinion on this chart. I haven't given you too much of mine, except that for his birth chart, I think that this right here is telling us that he could very well be in a pond. Or he can be in a very heavily populated wood area with a creek and drainage ditch running through it. Again, with those folks being a little overweight and they look a little bit on the lazy side to me. I don't think they went through too much effort. But if you do have any questions, we're here to answer them. You know, we don't think our maps aren't magic. They need to be interacted with, and that's it. So I hope the video helped. I hope, wish you luck. If you have any questions, you know, you can write to us and we'll answer anything we possibly can. So come on, little Joe. Come back. Got people looking for you. God bless and good luck.